In April 1986, India operated without the internet, smartphones, or decentralized media. Information flowed almost exclusively through a vertical state monopoly. The single television channel, Doordarshan, served as the primary information artery for a national population nearing 800 million. Urban markets remained heavily regulated, defined by state quotas and a limited selection of goods. The physical landscape reflected an economy that was still years away from global integration. Analyzing the cultural and economic events of this specific month provides a high-resolution snapshot of the era's internal mechanics. This technologically restricted environment forced a diverse population to consume identical media simultaneously, acting as the mechanism that forged a cohesive national identity. In this media environment, a monoculture emerged, the synchronized consumption of the same events and narratives by a massive, geographically divided population. This synchronization reached directly into the domestic sphere. Across the subcontinent, the daily rhythms of the household were aligned to the state's specific transmission schedule. This cohesion was built on three specific foundations: domestic political friction, the intense hero worship of cinema, and a newly standardized commercial language. Tracing these events back to April 1986 reveals how a diverse citizenry began its transition into a unified consumer market. The domestic reality of early 1986 was defined by acute political unrest, most notably the ongoing insurgency in Punjab. By late April, the state launched Operation Black Thunder 1 to clear armed militants from the Golden Temple. The bullet-for-bullet policy resulted in significant structural damage and a heightened military presence within the complex. These events generated systemic anxiety, emphasizing the violent fractures that the government had yet to resolve through policy or dialogue. This tension found a necessary release on April 18th, during the Australasia Cup final. The broadcast of the India-Pakistan cricket match provided a psychological counterbalance to internal domestic friction. In the final moments, Chetan Sharma bowled a low full toss that Javed Miandad struck into the stands for a six. Millions of viewers experienced this loss at the exact same moment, effectively channeling domestic political anxiety into a unified, outward-facing international rivalry. Outside the home, the cinema hall offered a state-tolerated space for mass sociological escapism. The release of Aakhri Rasta, featuring Amitabh Bachchan in a double role, became the dominant cultural event of the month. Bachchan's angry young man persona provided fictional resolutions to systemic corruption, offering a sense of justice that the state bureaucratic apparatus often failed to deliver. Simultaneously, films like Nagina offered complete psychological dissociation through folklore and magical realism, drawing massive audiences to watch Sri Devi's portrayal of a shape-shifting snake woman. This cinematic landscape functioned as a necessary release valve, providing an economically constrained working class with a predictable 3-hour reprieve from daily hardships. Back on television, Doordarshan continued to standardize the population's geographical and cultural awareness. Programs like Sham Benegal's Yatra mapped the physical vastness of the nation for citizens who, in their daily lives, faced significant restrictions on mobility and travel. In the closed economy of early 1986, the price of gold remained a fixed benchmark at 2,100 rupees for 10 grams. However, the frequent broadcast of jingles for products like Nirma and Maggi began injecting the concept of fast-moving consumer goods into previously agrarian-minded households. At the same time, the T-Series cassette revolution rapidly replaced expensive vinyl. This technological shift democratized media ownership, creating a tangible product that millions could afford for the first time. By monopolizing the airwaves, state media standardized consumer desires across regional lines, establishing the cultural infrastructure for a unified middle class. Domestic militarized unrest, cinematic vengeance, and the arrival of global commodities collided within a single month. Forced together by the era's limited broadcast technology, these elements created a singular cultural bottleneck through which all national experience had to pass. The sense of shared national identity in 1986 was the result of these intersecting forces acting upon a captive, synchronized audience. This monoculture successfully bound a fractured populace by providing both a shared response to trauma and a shared set of consumer aspirations. The gritty reality of a closed economy was often masked by the optimism generated by state-approved media. Doordarshan's monopoly created a synchronized baseline of cultural literacy that reached across geographic and linguistic divides. While the massive economic shifts of the 1990s were driven by policy, the monoculture of 1986 had already begun standardizing the public's expectations of a modern, consumer-led lifestyle. By the end of April, India possessed a synchronized public consciousness that would define its transition into the coming decade.